Utah County Republican Party, Caucus Host Training, 2016. Every 2 years, the Utah Republican Party invites neighbors to assemble in a political meeting called a caucus. There, they select volunteer precinct officers and delegates to serve for a 2-year political cycle. The only people who may speak and vote in a caucus are citizens who will be 18 years old, or older, on or before the general election, who reside in the precinct, who are registered to vote, and who are affiliated with the Republican Party. The general election this year is on Tuesday, November 8, so if you were born on or before November 8, 1998, then you are old enough to participate in your caucus. Others are welcome to attend as long as there is enough room for those who are credentialed to participate. Caucus rules are approved by the state party, and cannot be changed at caucus. A copy of the rules will be in your packet. They are also on the state party website, utah.gop, Caucus HQ, Caucus Resources. Carefully study the rules before caucus. They contain more detail than we have time to cover here. They are designed to promote a fair and efficient caucus experience for all who attend. The better you understand the rules, the more likely your caucus will be successful and enjoyable. The caucus agenda is specified in the bylaws of the state party, and may not be altered by the caucus. It consists of the following: welcome, prayer, pledge, reading of the platform, review of the rules, procedures, and duties of precinct officers and delegates, nominations and elections of precinct officers and delegates, other business such as the presidential preference vote, and the selection of election judges. Citizens are involved in the caucus to ensure that our public servants understand the proper role of government and vote in accordance with the platform. If they fail to do so, it is because we have failed to do our job as citizens. Thomas Paine famously said, "Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom, must, like men, undergo the fatigues of supporting it." Let's look at a calendar of upcoming events. Pre-registration for caucus is now open, but will close on March 15. The RNC will host a presidential debate here in Utah on Monday, March 21, and you can request a ticket to attend by visiting the state party website, utah.gop. Our caucuses are on Tuesday, March 22. Following caucus, in quick succession, will be 3 county-wide training and meet the candidates events, Thursday evening, March 24, Saturday morning, March 26, and Tuesday evening, March 29, in the north, central, and south parts of the county. Our county convention is Saturday, April 16. Our state convention is Saturday, April 23. The primary election is Tuesday, June 28. And the general election is Tuesday, November 8. There are 3 significant changes this year. First, our presidential preference vote will be held on March 22, the day of our caucuses, which is much earlier than June, in hopes that Utah will have a bigger say in the presidential race. Second, it will be done by the party, not by the state, which is what a private, independent entity ought to do. And third, it can be done online or in person at the caucus. However, only those who pre-register by March 15 will be able to vote online. Those who pre-register must choose either to vote online for president, or to vote in person at the caucus. Those who do not pre-register have no choice but to attend the caucus and vote in person for a presidential candidate. If one presidential candidate gets a majority of the votes cast on March 22, he will get all 40 of Utah's national delegates in the first round of balloting at the national convention. If no presidential candidate gets a majority of the votes, all candidates receiving 15% or more of the vote will get Utah's national delegates in proportion to the number of votes they received. For example, if 3 of the candidates receive 40%, 35%, and 25% of the preference vote, they will get 16, 14, and 10 delegates, respectively. If no presidential candidate gets a majority on the first ballot at the national convention, then our 40 delegates are unbound, meaning they may vote for whomever they want on the second and subsequent ballots. Encourage everyone to pre-register so the party gets accurate contact information, so those who are running for a precinct office or a delegate seat get their names on the precinct-specific ballot, and so you get a better idea of how many people are planning to attend your caucus. The state party will vet those who pre-register. In other words, if someone who is not affiliated with the party pre-registers, the state party will contact that person to affiliate with the party. Yes, a voter may affiliate with a party at the caucus, but pre-registering saves you time and paperwork. When a person pre-registers, he must decide whether he will vote for a presidential candidate online or in person at the caucus. He may choose to vote online, and not attend his caucus, or he may choose to vote online, and attend his caucus to vote for precinct officers and delegates, or he may choose to attend his caucus to vote for precinct officers and delegates as well as for a presidential candidate, or he may choose not to pre-register, but to attend his caucus to vote for precinct officers and delegates as well as for a presidential candidate. Pre-registration is open from February 15th to March 15th. It closes 1 week before caucus so the state party can produce the lists you will need at caucus. Pre-register at the state party website, utah.gop, or visit our county party website, ucrp.org. If a registered Republican cannot attend the caucus, he may cast the same-day ballot, regardless of whether he pre-registers, as follows: visit the state party website, locate and print his precinct-specific ballot, available 24 hours before the caucus begins, rank the candidates on the ballot, or write in the name of a candidate, put the ballot in an envelope, seal the envelope, and sign over the seal. Make a photocopy, both front and back, of government-issued ID, a driver's license, for example, and then give the envelope and the photocopy to someone who will be attending the caucus. An attendee may bring to caucus no more than 3 same-day ballots. A registered Republican who is serving outside the state of Utah on active military duty, or who is engaged in religious service outside the state of Utah, who is unable to attend his caucus, may send an email to the precinct chair and vice chair, requesting approval to cast a ballot in the precinct elections. The request must be made at least 72 hours before the caucus begins. The person must state why he cannot attend the caucus in person. Once the precinct chair verifies that the person may participate, the person may cast a vote by email to the precinct chair and vice chair. The precinct chair prints the email, which becomes the ballot, seals the email in an envelope, and conveys it to the caucus. The vice chair verifies each action of the chair, to protect the chair from any accusations of dishonesty. The party recommends, but does not require, that you advertise and host an hour-long meet and greet opportunity from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock for caucus attendees to get to know the candidates who are running for a precinct office or delegate seat. This enables caucus attendees to better understand who they will be voting for. It may help to create a feeling of community and camaraderie in your precinct. Plus, it will give you and your registrar volunteers a head start on credentialing attendees. After pre-registration closes on March 15th, the state party will provide a spreadsheet of all registered Republicans in your precinct. You will also get a printed copy, whereon an attendee may affix his signature. If the attendee pre-registered, this printout will indicate whether the attendee chose to vote for a presidential candidate online or in person at the caucus. Thus, you will know whether to give a presidential preference ballot to this attendee. You can give each of your registrars several pages of this list, so each registrar deals with a subset of the precinct, to minimize long lines during check-in. A registrar should ask for the person's name and ID, and locate that person on the printed sheet. If he is not on the sheet, then he must register and affiliate with the party before he is permitted to participate in the caucus. If he is on the sheet, most will be there. Ask him to sign the sheet. Then issue the appropriate ballots with a credential, either a participant who voted for president online, or a participant who will vote for president in person. You must get and maintain an accurate count of both types of participants throughout the evening. A wristband of a certain color is the best credential because it cannot fall off or be transferred to another person. A green wristband, for example, might indicate that the person may participate in the election of precinct officers and delegates, and a red wristband might indicate that the person may cast a ballot for a presidential candidate. Some people would have both credentials. A name tag with colored dots could be used as a credential. Name tags encourage people to visit with each other, but they also can fall off, or be taken off, of a person's clothing. A wristband is not going to fall off, but it does not show a person's name. So each approach has its advantages and disadvantages. You decide. If your district officers want to purchase wristbands or name tags for your precinct, the party will reimburse those costs. So talk with each other, decide how you would like to credential attendees, and then ask your district leadership if they would like to purchase wristbands or name tags, whatever you decide. The party cannot easily reimburse costs for 250 precincts, but is willing to reimburse costs for 15 districts. There should be a separate queue for those with same-day ballots, and a separate queue for unaffiliated voters. The registrar handling same-day ballots receives the envelope in the photocopy, and compares the signature on the outside of the envelope with the signature on the photocopy of the person's ID. If the signatures match, the registrar writes same-day ballot in place of the signature of the person who cast the ballot, slices open the envelope, deposits the ballot in the ballot box, and returns the photocopy to the person who brought the same-day ballot. If the signatures did not match, the ballot must be rejected, but confer with another person before rejecting the ballot. An attendee may not submit more than 3 same-day ballots. This registrar issues no credentials. This registrar also receives military and religious same-day ballots, and writes military service or religious service in place of the signature of the person voting via military or religious service same-day ballots. After most of the credentialing is done, registrars should add up their totals, so the caucus host can provide a credentialing report before elections begin. The host should indicate how many people were credentialed to participate in the election of precinct officers and delegates, and how many were credentialed to participate in the presidential preference vote. These two numbers might fluctuate during the caucus, when someone joins or leaves the caucus, for example. When that occurs, the numbers should be updated accordingly. In no case should the number of votes cast exceed the number of credentialed attendees. The platform is the party's statement of beliefs. It is what attracts people to the party, it is the ideological glue that holds us together. We expect Republican elected officials to adhere to our platform. And because precinct elected delegates select the party nominees, and caucus attendees select the delegates, both caucus participants and delegates must understand the platform. That is why reading the platform is on the agenda. You may read either the state party platform or the county party platform. The state party platform will be in your precinct host instructional guide. It is also at the state party website, Who We Are, Governance, platform. The county party platform is at our county party website, ucrp.org, Resources, Documents. Involve caucus attendees in reading the platform. You might ask several people the week before caucus to come prepared to read part of the platform and explain why it is meaningful to them. If you have a projector, you could display the platform on a screen, or the wall, for everyone to follow along. The county party spends hundreds of dollars to rent venues for caucus, to provide materials for meetings, and so on. Invite everyone to donate a little cash to defray the cost of caucus. You set the example. Hold up a donation envelope so people can see what it looks like. Remove some cash from your wallet or purse. Write your name on the outside of the donation envelope, along with the amount of cash you have in your hand, and then drop the cash into the envelope, and pass it on. Ask a volunteer, your treasurer, for example, to shepherd the envelope through the caucus so it isn't lost or forgotten. Explain there are 5 more ways people can donate to the party. Pledge a certain amount on the donation envelope, and then give that amount to the precinct treasurer later that week. Note in-kind donations on the donation envelope, if accompanied by a receipt or other evidence of donation. Visit the county party website, ucrp.org, click the donate button, and donate using a credit card or PayPal account. Write a check payable to Utah County Republican Party and mail it to the party. P.O. Box is on the website, and mark the checkbook box on your individual income tax return, which directs the state to take $2 from the general fund and give it to the party. Please thank everyone for their contributions to the party. Before you begin the elections, explain that the caucus rules allow the caucus to decide the threshold for winning an election, whether a candidate must win by a majority or by a plurality. The caucus may also choose the method of voting, either multiple round voting or preference voting. The caucus may make these decisions once for the whole evening, or before each election. County party leadership strongly recommends a majority threshold with preference voting, especially for single-seat elections involving 3 or more candidates. This year, caucus rules allow the caucus to decide whether an election may be won by a majority, or by a plurality. The choice is left to the caucus. You should understand both thresholds, and the advantages and disadvantages of each. A majority is an integer greater than half of the votes cast. If 10 votes are cast, half of 10 is 5, the integer greater than 5 is 6, so 6 is a majority of 10. If 11 votes are cast, half of 11 is 5.5, the integer greater than 5.5 is 6, so 6 is a majority of 11. So, for an even number of votes, you divide the number in half and add 1, and for an odd number of votes, you divide the number in half and add a half. The advantage of a majority election is its majority rules outcome. Most of the voters get what they want. The disadvantage is it may take more time, multiple rounds of voting. A plurality winner is a candidate who gets the most votes even though he does not get a majority. The advantage of a plurality election is its simplicity. Voters cast only one ballot. The disadvantage is that the winner may not have the support of a majority of voters. Plurality elections hurt ideologically similar candidates. In the presidential election of 1992, Ross Perot received 19% of the vote, Bush 38%, and Clinton won the election with 43% of the popular vote. Herein lies the unfairness of plurality elections. You can get a winner who does not have the support of a majority of voters. Perot was called a spoiler for Bush because most Perot supporters would have voted for Bush had Perot not been running. The most recent example of a congressional election in Utah that was spoiled was the 4th congressional district race in 2012 among Libertarian Jim Vane, Republican Mia Love, and Democrat Jim Matheson. Mia Love lost to Jim Matheson by 768 votes. Jim Vane was the spoiler with 6,439 votes. People feel that most Vane supporters would have voted for Love had Vane not been running. The state party constitution says caucus elections may be done with multiple round voting, or with preference voting. The choice is left to the precinct. You should understand both methods, and the advantages and disadvantages of each. On a multiple round ballot, a voter marks one and only one candidate. The ballots are collected, and counters sort them, one stack of ballots for each candidate. Each stack is counted, the number of votes cast for each candidate is noted on the tally sheet, the votes are totaled, and a majority is computed. A candidate who receives a majority of the votes cast wins the election. A tie between two candidates is broken by a coin toss. A tie among 3 or more candidates can be broken with the roll of a die. If no candidate gets a majority, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and another round of balloting begins. This process is repeated until a candidate gets a majority of the votes cast. Multiple round voting takes more time. On a preference ballot, a voter may rank all of the candidates. The ballots are collected, and counters sort them, one stack of ballots for each candidate. Counters sort the preference ballots according to the voter's first preference. Each stack is counted, the number of votes cast for each candidate is noted on the tally sheet, the votes are totaled, and a majority is computed. A candidate who receives a majority of the votes cast wins the election. A tie between two candidates is broken by a coin toss. A tie among 3 or more candidates can be broken with the roll of a die. If no candidate gets a majority of the votes cast, The candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and his ballots are distributed among the remaining candidates according to the voter's next highest preference. Each stack is counted, the number of votes cast for each candidate is noted on the tally sheet, the votes are totaled, and a majority is computed. This process is repeated until a candidate gets a majority of the votes cast. If you are filling 2 delegate seats, then when you begin the counting process to fill the second seat, the winner of the first seat is treated as though he was eliminated, and his ballots are distributed among the remaining candidates according to their next highest preference. Ditto for a third seat, and so on. Preference voting takes less time, but counting is harder, and voters cannot change their preferences between rounds. In your packet is a handout describing the duties of each precinct officer. Read those duties before opening nominations for that office. Potential officers must know what will be expected of them. For example, they inform neighbors about issues, clean up voter rolls, and encourage neighbors to vote. Also, the chair and vice chair attend a quarterly central committee meeting. Also in your packet is a handout describing the duties of delegates. Read those duties before opening nominations for those seats. Delegates are expected to devote dozens of hours before the convention vetting the candidates, visiting with them, studying their voting records, and measuring their words and actions against the party platform. Those who want to serve as delegates must be able to devote time to that responsibility, and to attend the conventions, one this year, and one next year, where they will cast their votes. Be sure delegate candidates know the date of the convention they must attend. There, delegates may also be asked to vote to approve or reject proposed changes to the party constitution, party bylaws, and party platform. Delegates may also fill midterm vacancies. Those who pre-registered and expressed their interest in a particular office are automatically nominated. Additional nominations may be made at caucus by credentialed attendees. A second is unnecessary. A person may nominate himself. A person need not be present to run, but whoever nominates someone who is absent must have permission from the person to place his name in nomination. Nominations may not be closed until all who wish to be nominated are in fact nominated. If only one person is nominated for an office, or if the number of candidates is less than or equal to the number of seats to be filled, meaning that the election is not contested, then that person, or persons, may be elected by acclamation. In other words, the caucus chair simply declares that person, or persons, to be elected. Casting ballots. Candidates get 30 seconds to address the caucus, unless a majority of the caucus wants to give them more time. They may discuss their employment, their personal views, their support for the party platform, and their positions on issues of interest. The caucus may ask questions of the candidates to better understand their views, but a litmus test, such as will you vote for so and so at the convention, is not appropriate. Delegates must vet the candidates, and give all of them a fair hearing, before deciding how to vote. After the candidates address the caucus and answer their questions, announce the number of credentialed attendees, including the number of same-day ballots, and invite credentialed attendees to mark and cast their ballots. Voting is done by secret ballot. You should receive the ballots systematically to ensure that each participant casts one and only one ballot in each race or election round. For example, you could write a 1 with a permanent marker on a voter's wristband or name tag when he casts his first ballot in the precinct chair's race. Once voters have been given a fair opportunity to cast their ballots, close the balloting and begin the counting. Be sure to include valid same-day ballots with the ballots cast in person. Announce the vote totals of each candidate each round, and announce the winner of each precinct office and delegate seat. While your volunteers are counting the ballots, you may invite an elected official to speak to the caucus, and answer questions, or you may show video clips of newsworthy events, or you may invite attendees to share their views about current issues facing the community, county, state, and nation. After precinct officers and state and county delegates are elected, proceed with the presidential preference vote. Announce the number of attendees who are credentialed to cast a ballot in person for a presidential candidate. Open balloting, and invite credentialed attendees to mark their ballots, and then receive them in a systematic way to ensure that each credentialed attendee casts one and only one ballot. Once voters have been given a fair opportunity to cast their ballots, close the balloting. Count the ballots, and announce the vote totals for each candidate. Each precinct has election judges who work at the polls on the day of the election. These volunteers are trained and paid by the respective county governments. They work at the polls from dawn to dusk, checking off voters in the official record log and assisting with technical voting questions. Ask for volunteers, make a note of their names, and then convey their names to your district officers. Give the appropriate handouts to newly elected officers and delegates. Invite them to the 3 county-wide training and meet the candidate events that will follow the caucus. Have at least 2 people count the money in the donation envelopes to make sure it is properly accounted for. The former treasurer and your newly elected treasurer could do this together. After all, the newly elected treasurer will want to follow up on attendees who pledged donations to the party. After verifying that the money on the inside matches the numbers on the outside of the envelope, those who counted the money should seal the envelope and sign it on the outside. Take a picture of any information you or the newly elected officers will want. The originals, or copies of the originals, may not be returned to you. However, do not allow candidates for public office to take pictures of the delegate sheets. They will get that information at the same time all other candidates get it, electronically. Transfer the attendance data from the registration sheets to a master spreadsheet on a laptop, copy that completed spreadsheet to the thumb drive, and submit the thumb drive and all paperwork, such as voter registration forms and sign-in sheets, to district leadership. If you are not familiar with preference voting, you will benefit from an exercise that illustrates how preference votes are counted. You should have a 2-page double-sided handout and a deck of 16 cards, practice ballots. The first page of the handout compares and contrasts multiple round voting with preference voting. The second and third pages provide step-by-step instructions on how to count the votes cast on the preference ballots. The last page is a tally sheet. Your assignment is to fill 2 seats using this one set of preference ballots. Shuffle the deck of cards, and then fill the first seat using the tally sheet provided. If you get stuck, consult page 2 of the handout. When you get a winner, compare your tally sheet with the one on page 2 of the handout. Then fill the second seat, and compare your tally sheet with the one on page 3 of the handout. Good luck!